Today's episode of Round Guy Radio is going to be brought to you by Smithburg Auto of Fairfield, Iowa, Hinshaw Trailer Sales of Richland, Iowa, and the Packwood Locker. It's opening day of baseball. We got our favorite former Major League player, Jimmy Driscoll, on the phone. Welcome to the program, Jimmy.
Thanks a million, Dave. Glad to be back. And I know my voice is going over the airwaves in Iowa, where I spent a good part of my professional career as a ball player. We can get into that a little later, but good morning to everybody.
Well, I'll give you a little background on Jimmy. He played 15 professional seasons, and he played for both the Burlington Bees and the Iowa Cubs, and he played a little bit in the majors with the Oakland A's and the Texas Rangers and the Cincinnati Reds back in the 70s when Cincinnati and Oakland was winning at least half the World Series of the time. He also was traded once to the Seattle Mariners, or not Seattle, the Washington Senators, who's not around anymore. Was signed with the Milwaukee Braves. In fact, I believe your dad worked for the Boston Braves, didn't he?
And he was an actor, Dave, at Braves Field, the old Braves Field, before the Braves moved to Milwaukee. And it was funny. The Red Sox and Braves shared the city like the Cubs and the White Sox do Chicago. And it's funny that when the Braves were on the road, the Red Sox would be home. And when the Sox were on the road, the Braves would be home. But the ushers were the same at Fenway and also at Braves Field. So I was in the best of both worlds when I was growing up as a young kid, going to see American League and National League teams right in Boston there. Yeah, but my dad was an usher at both of those ballparks.
Well, I guess we'll start out. Give me an opening day memory with your dad. Sometime when you and your dad were together on opening day, and what was special about it?
Well, I can remember way back in the day. I'm talking about the 50s now. In the Red Sox, it was opening day for the Red Sox, and in those days, they were terrible. I mean, they were just awful, you know. And so we went to opening day, excuse me, and as it turned out, the Red Sox, they lost 9-1. 9-1 they lost. And it's funny, the next morning in the paper, the headlines in the paper said for the Red Sox, wait till next year. After one game, they doomed them after one game. But anyway, it was an experience. I mean, it was very young, but it was a quick memory of opening day for me.
That's beautiful. We had something beautiful around here last night. I think we'll start out with, there was one game last night as the Yankees and the San Francisco Giants kicked off the season. The Yankees get a 7-0 win, but that's not the headline around here in Richland, Iowa, and Ollie, Iowa, and Fairfield, and Pekin, and all those Pekin schools where this young man played high school baseball. But a young man named Keaton Wynn, he's 28 years old. He's pitched a little in the majors over the last 4 years. He's had the Tommy John surgery, and he had a surgery last year that replaced a nerve. But he had a pretty good season. He pitched 7 or 8 games up there towards the end of the year last year, and he made the opening day roster. And in the 6th inning, he was brought in against the Yankees to try and hold him down a little bit, and he does. He walks the first batters, but then he strikes out a couple guys back to back. One guy named Aaron Judge and one guy named Cody Bellinger. Talk a little. You're a bit of an Iowa guy yourself. What do you? The community is kind of going nuts this morning. To be honest with you, I mean, every Facebook page is flooded with this story. It's kind of a feel good story. You're a guy that was both up and down in the majors and AAA. What about this kid here getting up there, getting those big strikeouts against these superstars? What do you think of that?
Well, you know, it's a big story because it was the only game in town, so the world was focused on that game last night, and with the kid from Iowa to come in like that and really do the job, striking out Judge and Bellinger. I mean, it's only one game, of course, but he got off to a good start. That you rather start good than start not so good and slowly get better. The kids started off good, so and Aaron Boone's mind there, the manager, that puts a thought in his mind that we can maybe start relying on this kid a little bit more. But it's all in baseball. It's what have you done for me lately? You know. But what he did last night was a feather in his hat, and to keep going for. Hopefully he's in the mix and stays there all year long. Good kid, I understand.
Well, we'll talk about the Yankees. Keaton actually pitches for San Francisco, but let's talk a little bit about the Yankees. That seemed like a good place to start.
I meant to put him with down.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. But what do you think of the Yankees this year?
Well, I mean they've got all the parts. They've got all the parts, and as I say, everybody's well, the Yankees are now 0-1, but everybody else is in first place at the moment. You know, so it's a long season. It's not a sprint. It's not a sprint this season. It's a marathon. So you pace yourself as you go. You know. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't think about: that the losses in April and May count just as much as those losses going down the stretch. You know. So as I said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So they pace themselves, and of course, then you have to factor in injuries, the disable list. If some of your key players go down, so it's a mystery at the moment. But it's that's why we love baseball, because tomorrow's another day.
All right. Well, we got another Iowa-related player in a place you're very familiar with, and I think you might have been on the opening day roster for the Texas Rangers when their first season. But a young man from Des Moines, down in Catholic school, Carter, I believe his name is Baumler. He's getting his first opportunity. Not only so he's getting an opening day and a first day in the majors day. Tell us a little bit about opening day there at Texas Rangers and maybe a little bit about what's going through this kid's mind.
Okay, so it's kind of an interesting story. It started when I was 4 years old. Okay, as we mentioned, my father was an usher at Fenway, and when I was 4 years old, I had my picture taken with Ted Williams at Fenway Park. Okay, now fast forward 25 years later. I'm playing for the Oakland Athletics, and I was traded to the Washington Senators. And who's the manager of the Washington Senators? None other than Ted Williams. So now, that winter, the Rangers, the Senators left Washington and moved to Texas to become the Texas Rangers. And I'm on the roster now in spring training. Had a heck of a spring and made the ball club. And I was on the opening day roster for the Texas Rangers in Arlington, Texas. And it was, hey, I mean, when you're in the big leagues, you're in the big leagues, Maybe you're called and few were chosen, as they say. But it was a big deal to me. I mean, all of a sudden I went from a little hometown guy in Boston to the major leagues. It took me a while to get there, but nonetheless, I battled on and was called up to the majors, and quite a thrill, to tell you the truth.
All right. So what do you think going through this young pitcher's mind? He found out on the last day of spring training. Actually, the coach came up while he was pitching and told him that he made the roster, and he was able to keep himself under control and end the inning there. But what do you think's going through his mind there, the kid from Iowa?
Well, I saw that little bit of splice of video where the manager came out and all the infielders joined around for the beating on the mound, and it was revealed that you've made the club to the kid. A smile came to his face. Like, oh my God, I made the club. And the infielder gave him a quick pat on the back, and back to the game was going on. But it was how long has he been playing, Dave? Does it say how long he's been playing pro ball?
This is his first game. He was drafted, I want to say maybe 4 years ago. Something.
Okay, so he's been working his way up, but now that he's there, he's probably just on cloud nine, the kid,
Yeah.
So, but as they say, once the first bomb falls, everybody's a veteran,
Well, he'll have a little experience if I think he's pitching out of the bullpen, so we may or may not see him today. But well, you got any thoughts on the Texas Rangers? They're one of your old teams.
Well, they have last year they just couldn't get it together. I mean, they were awful, and but this year they had a few trades, re-signed some people, and there's a whole new attitude. It looked like from the vibes and videos that I was getting from spring training from Texas. They look like they're having fun, and that's the name of the game. Go out, have fun. It's a game. It's a game. Yes, there's a lot of money involved. It's still a game. So it looked like they were out there having fun, enjoying themselves, and with that kind of a team effort and with that kind of attitude, you can have a fun, a productive season. So I'm looking for good things from the Rangers. I'm not making any predictions, but I'm gonna. One thing I will say that they're in a better attitude than they have been in a couple of 3 years now. So
Well, it looks like it all kicks off today in New York City as the Pirates and the Mets are going to have it's a 12:15 tilt hill set here Central Time, a little earlier for you there, not coming up too much later for you. But these are two teams that are pretty exciting. The Pirates have all this Connor Griffin and a lot of young players, and actually signed some people, and they got schemes. And the Mets are also predicted to do very well. They made some all-season moves. You live in that area. What's going on with those two teams?
well, it's the Pirates have been floundering. Let's put it mildly for a while. But they've got some. They got the best pitcher in baseball. One of them, Ski, and they've made some additions there. The Mets they're hoping and praying. I mean, they got a team salary that's off the charts, but they've got some great players. But you can have a bunch of great players and not have chemistry. So they're hoping for more chemistry with the Mets this year, and the Pirates are going in there with all kinds of optimism that at least they're going to improve themselves in the standings this year. So as I said, almost another rivalry that's in the making.
Well, you mentioned chemistry, and you were around a couple of teams that had it. The Oakland A's, with their 3 World Series wins, I don't know if they had the best players in the league, but they had the best chemistry. And then you were a little bit there with the Cincinnati Reds when they were winning World Series too. The Big Red Machine had chemistry too. Well, tell us a little bit about maybe both of those teams and why the chemistry was maybe the main factor.
I'll start with the Oakland A's. I spent most of my career with the A's organization, working my way up to eventually being called up to the major leagues. But sitting there in the dugout, I'm reflecting back. I was sitting amongst and playing with 4 future Hall of Famers at the time, with the name of Reggie, Catfish Hunter, Lolly Fingers, Bando. He didn't make but I mean, Joe Rudy, Campy Campanaris, Dickie Green, Rick Monday's another one, and the chemistry was there. They have there with well, I'll tell you a story about the mustaches. Lolly Fingers showed up to spring training one year. It was probably 69, around that, 68, 69, with the handlebar mustache. And Finley, the owner of the A's, really liked it, and he had the bright idea to make a proposition with the other players saying, if you grow a mustache, I'll give you $500 to each player. So 500 is 500. Next thing you know, the whole team's got a mustache. And if you remember, that was almost one of the trademarks of the Oakland A's, the mustaches, But they had fun. They were friends. They were such friends that they would call each other out if they had to, meaning somebody was slacking off or not giving 100% effort. They confront them. And sometimes it was fisticuffs came flying by, not often, but enough to have people realize that, hey, we're in this together. We're going to fight as a team, and not being a smarty pants, but they won 3 World Series in a row.
That was
unbelievable.
It was a sure sexy time in sports. But then you did spend a little time with the Cincinnati Reds. What about those guys? That big red machine. There's still other teams that had Mike Smith and whatnot out there. Why were they so successful with just getting along with each other and playing well together?
Exactly. Well, it was. I'll tell you another quick story about the Reds. I was traded to the Reds. Me and Hal King, who was a catcher, we got traded from Texas to the Cincinnati organization, and I was invited to spring training as a non-roster player, meaning that if I had a chance of making the big league club. I was well into my career at that age. I was 27, 28 years old. So anyway, as time went on, I got to spring training, and Sparky Anderson, the manager, called me into his office and let me know that they're letting Joe Morgan, the regular second baseman, spend a couple of extra weeks up in California finishing up school. He was going to some junior college or something. So Sparky says, "You're in there. You'll be playing second base." So I'm saying, "Well, I said, I took the challenge, and in the back of my mind, I went out and just put forth the effort and the skill that got me there. I wasn't trying any harder, wasn't any more nervous. But meanwhile, listen to the lineup that I'm in. Behind the plate, Johnny Bench. Third base, Pete Rose. Shortstop, Dave Concepcion. First base, Tony Perez. Left field, George Foster. Center field, Cesar Geronimo. And in right field, Ken Griffey Sr. And at second base, Pee Wee Jimmy Driscoll." Everybody knew of all those players, but nobody knew Pee Wee Jimmy Driscoll. But anyway, as the story goes, I got off to a tremendous start. I was hitting the ball like nobody's business. I was hitting 400 after about 10, 12 days in spring training. And then Morgan came in back. That put me on the bench, of course. And then Sparky called me in, and he said, for all your efforts, you basically have done well enough to make the club, but we just have too many left-handed hitters. I was a left-handed hitter. And Sparky said, "Well, we just got too many left-handed hitters." Morgan was a left-handed hitter. Let's see, Griffey was one. Pete Rose, of course, a switch hitter. Geronimo was a left-handed hitter. And so Sparky said, we made a trade. We traded to somebody, or we made an acquisition. I don't know if it was a trade. And they signed Ray Oyler, who was a utility infielder, had been around for a while, but a right-handed hitter. And so I resulted in not making the club and got sent to spring training. But I'll never forget, there was one incident. I'm playing second base, and there was a high pop-up went into short right field. I'm talking about high. And the drill is, if you're an infielder, you back up and if you can catch, be in position to catch the ball. Now, if the outfielder is coming in and he has a better shot at it, he'll be yelling to you, "I've got it, I've got it, I've got it." Oral communication. So if that was the case, the infielder falls out of the way, and the outfielder has a better shot at catching it. Well, I'm camped under the ball, and I'm not hearing any voice from Griffey coming in. So as the ball hits my glove, Griffey runs into me. I make the catch, and we both fall to the ground. Now we're on the ground, and I'm looking over it, and then I see Sparky, Alex Grammas, one of the coaches, the trainer, running from the dugout to come to right field. And just as they got to me, they jumped right over me and went to Griffey. As they're jumping over me, I'm thinking, my career is over. I didn't really have that moment, but Griffey was there. It was a rookie, and he was there, their cream of the crop rookies come along, and they were more concerned about his condition than mine. Both of us turned out to be all right, but I'll never forget them jumping over me to get to Griffey. It sounds kind of sad, but it's true. And I did make a big deal out of it, but there's the story anyway, But getting back to the team, they had chemistry besides being great, besides being tremendous players. tremendous, and they like each other. That's the whole thing, you know. And they were playing for the love of the game. There wasn't much money being made back in those days. The highest paid players were making 100,000, 125,000, which was pretty good money back in the day. But now, compared to now, the bat boys are making 100,000. You know,
Jeez.
so yeah, and the minimum salary now in the majors is 500,000. The least you can make.
Well,
Yeah.
if you can get by on it, it's a good job, I guess. Well, we better get back to the schedule. That was a great story, though. Yeah, you sure got to play with some amazing, just I don't know, championship teams. You know, I mean, in the time you were in that era, you know, you were involved in 5 World Series teams there. But
Exactly.
the White Sox are taking on the Brewers here today at 1:10. That's the next game. Milwaukee was a destination you thought perhaps you'd be playing the major leagues.
Oh, well, I signed originally with the Milwaukee Braves, as I said, and then they soon after that they moved to Atlanta. But the Braves, I mean, they've been hanging around there that top level for a couple of 3 years now. Haven't made it too much past the first round, but they've got enough players to do it. But it makes it interesting for the fans, you know. At least they go to the park and know they have a competitive club. It's going to be fun to watch.
Well, the Chicago White Sox team a couple of years ago, they set the record for the most losses, but I think they've made some ground, and I know they made a lot of trades and brought in a lot of kids into the organization. They got a catcher named Teal that I've got my eye on. Looks like he could be a pretty good player. You got any thoughts on the Chicago White Sox?
Well, as I said, I'm not too familiar with a lot of these clubs on a reporting mode, but just that they've improved to a point where they're out there being competitive, which is a good thing for the fans, you know.
All right. The Nationals and the Cubs. Cubs are a team everybody likes around here, and I think they have potential to have a pretty good season.
Well, you know, the Cubs, they've been, I mean, with Drake Counsell, the manager, and you have to have the players. You have to have a good manager, but the manager is only as good as the players. But he's brought up a winning attitude to that Cubs organization. They're great fans anyway, the Cub fans. So we could go over all these teams. I don't think I've got enough time to go over the whole roster of the major leagues to make predictions, but I will make a prediction that the Dodgers are going to be hard to beat.
Well, you're going out on a limb there. I'll just read off the rest of the schedule, and then we'll just talk about some teams. I know the Red Sox are close to your heart here. The Twins and the Orioles are coming up. The Angels and the Astros will be a 3. So it's a 2:00 start. It looks like they're kind of staggering things a little bit like this NCAA tournament where there'll be one game ending and one game starting. That's a 2:00 game. 3:10, you got the Astros and the Angels, or the Angels at the Astros. 3:10, Tigers and Padres. The Red Sox and Reds at 3:10. 3:15, the Rays and the Cardinals. A lot of Cardinals fans around here. The Phillies, Rangers will be taking on the Phillies at 3:15. The Diamondbacks at 7:30. They're taking on the Dodgers, and the Guardians that's a 7:30 game. And at 9:10 tonight, the Mariners and the Guardians will be playing in Seattle. What teams are you looking at this year? And you got anything you want to say about any team in particular?
Well, of course, I'll be following the Sox. Being a native New Englander, I grew up in the Boston area, so I've always been a Sox fan. And I like to keep my eye on the Yankees too. I mean, I grew up when I was growing up. If the Yankees weren't in the World Series, there was something wrong. You know, those great teams with Mantle, Maris, Yogi, Moose Skowron, Whitey Ford. I mean, they dominated, and just being a ball fan in general, I kind of grabbed it. Nobody knew I was a Yankee fan growing up, living in Boston. If they did, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today, you know. But I follow the Yankees, Red Sox, of course, and the Texas Rangers, the Oakland A's, organizations that I was familiar with. But just baseball in general, you know. I love a well-played game. I love a pitching duel. I love slugfest when bombs are hitting out of the ballpark. But a well played game. If they're making a good effort, I enjoy it. Still a great game.
I certainly enjoy it. Roman Anthony is a player with a lot of heat on him. You got any thoughts on he's in the World Baseball Classic there, doing pretty well?
Did pretty well, and also they put a lot of pressure on that kid. Whether how he handles it will be the story. But I mean, they're touting this kid is the next coming of Ted Williams, or Carl Yastrzemski. Even those names are mentioned in the same breath as Anthony. So he's got a lot of pressure on, but he's got the goods. Let's face it. I mean, he hit the homer to win the whole thing to beat Japan one night in that World Classic. But a good player with all the tools. He's got all the tools to be great. Now, if he stays humble and goes and does his job, puts forth the best effort he knows how, we should be excited about seeing this young talented kid emerge in all baseball. Yep.
All right. Well, I've probably taken up as much as your morning as I need to. But do you have any thoughts on the World Baseball Classic?
I thought it was great. I was rooting for Venezuela for the simple reason that they had such enthusiasm. I mean, it was pouring out of their veins. It seemed like playing for their country, And plus, they've been in the throes of a dictatorship for as long as we can remember. And meanwhile, these players were representing their fellow Venezuelans back where things weren't so good economically and under the dictatorship. I won't start naming names because we don't want to get too political here. We're talking baseball. But I was rooting for the Venezuelans, and they did. They were so happy. I mean, you had to chisel that smile off their faces. They were so thrilled, And the Americans, that just goes to show you, the U.S., they had some great players, but they didn't have the same enthusiasm as some of those Latin players other countries did who they're playing for their country, I'm sure the Americans had pride doing it, but the Venezuelans had more pride than the rest of them, and thus they won the championship. So I was thrilled for them,
Well, one of the players on Venezuela has something in common with you, and that would be Salvador Perez, as you were both Burlington Bees. I thought his handling of the pitching staff was the reason why they won all those games, and plus he was clutch with the bat, and he's that kind of guy that you're talking about there. That's got that infectious personality and creates that chemistry that team certainly had.
Exactly, and he's been steady Eddie after all these years. He was great with Kansas City, if you remember, back in the day when they were winning a couple in a row, the Royals, and so yeah, he's got. I mean, it was mentioned more than once during that broadcast that he might have future Hall of Fame ballots stored up for him already because he's done it so graciously and humbly and very professional, but doing the job and knows how to handle a pitching staff. That's half the battle,
Well, he sure loves baseball, and he said that, after winning that, he could finally retire. I know he's going to play out the rest of this year. He said he wasn't for sure retiring, but he says he's done it all. He's won the World Series, and he's won the World Baseball Classic and Gold Gloves and all that stuff. So I would vote for him. He's always been one of my favorite players. I love everything about the way he goes about his business and dunking people with those Gatorade bottles after the game and everything. He's fun to be around.
Fun to be around, and it's infectious, and you can tell. You look at him, and a smile comes to your face because he's probably smiling every time you've ever seen his face, for some reason. So he's a happy kid. He's a happy spirit, and he's a heck of a ball player. So kudos to him.
Well, we sure thank you for taking some time to be with us today. Do you have anything that we didn't get to talk about that you want to talk about, or any message for your friends here in Iowa?
Well, when I mentioned Des Moines, I mentioned being in Iowa. This story always comes to mind. And I was playing for Des Moines, and during the summer, especially when the cops started coming in. The clubhouse kids, the guy that cleaned the uniforms, shined the shoes, that guy, the clubby they call him, he would go not too far outside of Des Moines city limits and grab maybe 2 or 3 dozen ears of corn and bring them back, and they could have steamed corn, fresh, uh, shucked in the seventh inning, eaten after the 11th inning. Having a double hitter. Anyway, the corn was so sweet that you didn't even need butter. You didn't even need butter. The corn was so sweet coming out of Iowa. It was. I'll never forget it. I'm telling this story like I'm doing it right now. But Des Moines, folks in Iowa in general. I put in Burlington, and but the folks, they're regular folks, just like yourself, Dave. We've got to know each other over the last few years, and no matter how long it's been since we've talked, the next time we talk, we'll pick up right where we left off. That's the kind of people that live in Iowa. They're genuine, hard-working people. Get up in the morning, go to work, love their family, love their country, and they're regular folks. More folks should be like Iowans. That's my general take on your neighbors and your neighborhood. So it was a pleasure to be there, and I'll always have fond memories of the area.
One more thing, I want to wish my dad a happy birthday. I think he's 83 today, but he's coming down Saturday, and we're all going fishing. And so glad that he's around, and I'm glad that you're around. We can talk and stay in touch. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jimmy, and enjoy your opening day. I know I will.
Thanks, Dave, and happy birthday to your father. He's right around the same age bracket I am. I'll be 82 in May, this coming May. I can't even spell octogenarian, never mind be one, But kudos to him, and enjoy your fishing, and don't be telling any fish stories like the one that got away.
Well,
right?
I'll send you a picture of the fish we catch.
All right, buddy.
All right, see you later. Nice talking to you.
Okay, guys, take care, kid.